today's class, by the way, hey, can you all just introduce yourselves? Just really fast. Well, Jared, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Jared. I'm from Philadelphia, and I'm a first year.
First year.
I'm Will. I'm a junior. I'm from Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a sophomore, and I'm from Jersey.
From New Jersey?
Yeah.
We're in Jersey?
South Jersey, near Cherry Hill is like the big
Yeah.
town.
All right, I know Cherry Hill. So Jared, Will, Olivia. So listen, so the three of you know, we're gonna have a conversation. I'm gonna talk about some things that are they're just sort of in the news, things that have just popped up that I find to be a little bit. I just want to test it out with you all, right? Some ideas about things being divisive, and maybe they don't need to be, and maybe they do. I don't really know, but there's when you have something to say, you can say it, right? But there's only going to be one point at which I'm going to really directly have you respond. So you're here as a way to respond to some things, and if someone has a question or a comment, then we can pass a microphone around. Hey, but can you go back to that one first slide? I forgot to do that. Hey, I just found this, came across my reality the other day, and it's the percent of ministerial positions held by women in national cabinets. Okay, and so Spain was number one at 66.7%. That's 2/3 of the ministerial cabinets. Hey, dudes, can you turn the volume down again really fast on the stream? Because sometimes I want to have a meltdown. You can't imagine how much sometimes I feel like I just want to go off, and I don't go off. I just hold it, and it's all good, because I know that when I leave here, I'm going to go home and have a really awesome beer. So, and not that water stuff that many of you drink. I'm like a connoisseur of beer, so like a really good beer. Anyway, so just look here. Look at even Nicaragua. Now, this is before the most recent elections, right? But look at even Colombia, Peru, Albania, of all things. The U.S. is number 107, 17.4%. This is the Biden administration. So I'm sure it was even lower under the Trump administration, although I don't know that, actually. It might have been higher. But I just thought that this was kind of interesting. It's interesting, right? That even Nicaragua and Colombia and Peru in Latin America are ahead of the United States. It's just kind of really fascinating to me, anyway. All right, let's go forward. So I just want to clarify a couple things about transgender and transsexual. Okay, I just want to say a couple things. So, and the reason I want to come back to this is that I want you to be really, really clear about what we're talking about, because increasingly what we're talking about is trans, like this trans issue, and we're talking about trans rights and people who are trans. or trans people, or how trans issues, or trans discrimination, or transphobia. And what are we talking about? Because we're talking about two very different populations of people. We're talking about people who are transgendered, meaning that, people who are bending all the gender rules, right? Which all of you are at some level, bending gender rules. And whatever the rules are, because they're hard, I don't even know what the rules are. I don't even know anybody really knows what the rules are, right? But we're just bending a little bit. Cody. It was what is it? Cole. Dude, I was close. 4 letters, started with a C, had an O in it. All right, so Cole. And then, the other day, who's doing drag. Like you're bending, you're not in your awesomeness, at least on the weekends or whatever, right? You're bending gender rules, right? And so okay, that's you're kind of going back and forth, and that's awesome. But there's what historically we have called transsexual. Now, we're not kind of using this anymore because we've sort of taken transgender as the umbrella term for all things trans. It's either trans or it's transgendered. But when we talk about transsexual, what we're talking about are people who are saying, listen, it's not that I'm fluid in my way of gender. I'm fluid in the way that I express my sexuality and think about sexuality, or the way I express it, embody it, whatever. It's not just that. It's beyond that. It's like my entire body itself, my spirit, that spirit that is inside of this body, because that's all we are. Our spirit's inside of a body. And like when we die, we drop our bodies and we move on. But my spirit, this time around, and I have this idea, I don't know if I was having a conversation with somebody last night. I have this idea that our spirits are asexual. That our spirits, what we know, so I don't know what you know or think about reincarnation. I think about it a lot. I read it about it a lot. I read the science of reincarnation. I'm really kind of into it. That there's a sense that we have these spirits, and they will come into a male body, a man body, or a woman body, and back and forth, right? So you go, you reincarnate, you come back. It doesn't really matter. Maybe you don't believe that. That's fine. But half the world does. And so, okay, I don't know who to say they're wrong and anybody else is right or whatever. But in any case, right? So I have this idea that people, maybe the spirit just comes into the body, and it's it's the wrong body. And it's just, people just feel I'm in this body. I would be I'm in this man body, but I just feel it's just not right. You know what I mean? It's just not right. And so it's not that I want to express, I can try to express myself as a woman, whatever that is, as a different gender other than the one that would appear to go with the male body. Again, that's all just bending all over. We're all bending it. Don't forget, every woman in this classroom if you're wearing pants, you are bending gender. Not for right now, but just go back 50 years, you are. And in many cultures, you just wouldn't wear pants. You just wouldn't do that. So in any case, it's just my spirit just doesn't feel, it's not here. It's that my body should be, I should be a woman. I am a woman. It's not that I should be, I am a woman. And therefore, I'm just in the wrong body. And so then I start to say, let's transition. So I'm not going to, this isn't about just I'll do something with my makeup or clothes I wear or who knows what. No, I'm going to actually transition in a different way. And then I'm going to start moving over here, and I'm going to do some things, right? I'll start taking some hormone treatments, and I'll start, just kind of moving along and just see what happens. And then maybe it just continues to feel right. And then okay, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll do, implants, right? And maybe, you see, that's transsexual. That's different. So transgender, transsexual. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we started to lump everything together as trans, and you all have come of age at a time when trans rights are just at the forefront of of so many conversations. I feel like people just miss, you run the risk of missing these two things. So people who are transsexual, right, who are going like, nah, listen, this isn't just about me bending gender rules. I'm going to transition in a different way. This is a really, really big issue. This is not to be conflated with coal, which is awesome, right? Coal's a different thing. This is different. So we're talking about something else. So, okay? Or any others of you who identify in some way as non-binary, transgender, whatever, however that is, which is awesome and it's cool. And it's like, why not, man? Like, oh my God, just don't be stuck. Just be stuck. Who wants to be stuck in one thing? If you can like, but transsexual is different. You all right? This isn't like a flippant thing. Everybody who I know in my life, and this goes back more than 40 years, everybody I know who in my life who have identified in some way as transsexual, that has been a major, major challenge, a major transition, a very thoughtful transition, a very not just like one day, I've decided, I'm a woman now, so therefore the next day I sign up for hormone treatment. So this is not about that. This is about everyone who I've ever known, every story I've ever read, everybody. It's like this is a very slow, thoughtful process. And a powerful experience. Because you're like, it's like, this isn't just about changing identity. It's about opening up and walking into a different. It's beyond identity. It is mind, body, spirit, and it's really the awesomeness is mind blowing in my mind, in my humble opinion. And I know people I've seen. I know little kids who, from a really young age, they just knew, man. They just knew that they were in the wrong body. And I know somebody now, parents, who are just like, they at first they were just like, oh my God, I can't, these are not academic, liberal eggheads who are like, want to be cool people. These are average people who are just like, holy shit, what have we gotten into here? What is this? What's going on? And then listening to their child articulate what it is that their child is experiencing in life. It's like, and watching the parents just slowly transform the way they see their child and the way they go from a he to a she. It's just a most powerful experience. And so what I want to say to you is, it's not always like that, because there are some people who just are jagged with it. They don't know, the transition isn't easy for them, or parents or family or friends who don't really understand, and then they make it really difficult. But I'm telling you, I have witnessed this from the front row seat. I have witnessed this kind of transition, and it is awe-inspiring. And I just want to say that to you, because you're going to hear more about it, because you will. And when we're talking about the rights of trans people, we're talking about the rights of transsexuals and the rights of transgendered people. And they're two different populations of people. And some of the rights overlap, but some of them are separate. And that's really, really important. Okay? Is that cool? So now I want to show you this. Take a look here. This is a poll. It just came out. I don't know how. I know that PBS, the NewsHour, is really, really careful about polls. But polls these days, it's hard to get anybody to take a poll. But do you support the 2021 Equality Act that would protect people from discrimination? So by the way, I'm going to ask you, not after this slide, after the third one, okay? They would protect people from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, okay? Which includes, but again, I don't know what gender identity means. This is the problem, right? So we've now started to conflate all these things together that, like, if someone asks me these questions, I'm like, I don't know what you're really talking about. Are you talking about transgendered people? Are you talking about transsexual people? Are you talking about the LGBT community? Are you talking about, like, what are you talking about, right? But nonetheless, right, national adults, so 63 support the Equality Act that would just protect people, right? 63 support, 32 oppose, 5 are unsure. And look at the difference in Democrats and Republicans, okay? Can you respond to that?
Me?
What do you think? Yeah, what do you think about the difference in Democrats and Republicans? Olivia.
It kind of makes sense, to be honest, because Democrats and Republicans have opposing views, that it makes sense that if one party supports something so heavily that another party wouldn't support it because they have different points of views.
Oh, I got you. So you think that it's possible. By the way, this is actually a really, really cool answer. I don't mean actually. It's actually, in spite of Olivia being Olivia, she actually has a really cool answer. No, this is a really cool answer, all right? So you're saying that it's like a party platform kind of thing. If Democrats support it, Republicans are going to be against it kind of thing.
Not just that, but
Okay.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that, like, if a Democrat says something, then a Republican is just like, oh, I'm going to say the opposite just because.
Yeah.
But I think you sign up to, or like when you do sign up to be in a part of a party, it's because you like align with their views. So like it makes sense that the majority of one group would support it, and then probably the other side would disagree because it's the other side.
And then you're just you're inundated with information that's confirmation bias, right? You're going to only look at information that supports what you already think you believe in. Because again, I don't even know what the hell that question means. So you think you can answer the question, so you're going to do that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of like social media stuff, if you like it, then they show you more that's liked. So yeah.
God, yes, exactly. Okay, so check this out. Okay, so all the liberals in here who are thinking like, oh yeah, these Republicans, like, yeah, narrow-minded Republican kind of types, right? So hang tight, gentlemen, you're going to be next. So yeah, look, 90%, how can you oppose protecting people from discrimination based on gender identity? It's like, come on, man. It's like, look, Cole over here, right? Remember Cole from the other day, right? Cole does drag and so on, right? Cole, can you get a nice shot of Cole, his smiling face we can't see? Okay, his smile we can't see. So look, dude, what that means is, like, this guy, you can just discriminate against him? Like, I hire Cole, I find out that, oh, you do drag? Oh, no, hang on. No, I'm not hiring you. Like, you're not going to be permanent. You're going to do this. No, like, I'm not going to rent my apartment to him. I'm not going to do any number of things just because, like, whatever, because I don't support that, and I think that's bullshit. And so, therefore, I can discriminate. Who supports that? Like, come on, man. Like, who would support that? Like, dude, can you stand up? Dude, he's a nice guy. Like, why would you want to discriminate against this guy? You know what I mean? Dude, do you have any idea why anybody would? Wait, hang on.
Misconceptions and bad past experiences with people from the community.
But no one has any experiences, man. You know what I mean? They don't. It's all in their minds, right? Okay? It's all in our minds. Like, yeah, why would you do? Okay, you can't see his smile, but assume you got a nice smile. Look, he's got a cool smile. Okay? Got that? So who would do that? But now watch this. Watch this. So go to the next slide. Do you support or oppose legislation that would prohibit gender transition-related medical care for minors? Look at that. So red is support, blue is opposed. Here's national. Look at Democrats and Republicans. It's the same. I'm like, oh, all right. So like, wait, hang on a second. What happened to the narrow-minded Republicans? They go away. Like this way of like, oh, look, you go to that last slide, there's completely opposing viewpoints. It's like, oh my God, the Republicans are over here, the Democrats are over there, they're wrong, we're right, they're wrong. Whatever it is, I have no idea. We're wrong, they're right. I have nothing. But look at this. Basically, like, yeah, all right. Oh, you mean that? You mean that's the actual issue? Oh, okay, I support that. You want medical procedures? Like, all right, that's cool. Like, I got that. Look at the next one. Do you support or oppose legislation that would prohibit transgendered student athletes from joining sports teams that match their gender identity? Look at that. Basically, more Republicans support that than Democrats. I'm like, what the fuck, people? Like, come on. What happened to the narrow-minded, bigoted Republicans from the first slide? Maybe they're not narrow-minded and bigoted after all. Maybe this stuff is actually more complex. Do you have a thought of that, bro? Will, what do you think of it? Or Jared, one of you.
What we were just talking about, I'm just confused on the phrasing because it says like they're opposing legislation that prohibits transgender. So are they saying that they
opposing? So here it is. So opposing legislation that would prohibit. So the legislation prohibits that, and I oppose that.
So they're letting the transgender students
And so this
participate.
is actually, it's where you want to be, right? Oppose legislation. So I support legislation that would support it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The point is, the Democrats and the Republicans are basically, they're the 69-66, 25-29. It's like, there's no difference. So do you have a thought as to why there's no difference for these two things? Do you have a thought on that? Why on these two issues? Because, by the way, can I tell you something? I oppose this. I'm like, nah, hang on a minute, man. Male athletes, like, I'm like, I'm not so sure. I'm just not, hang on. It's not that I oppose it, but I'm like, on the face of it, hold tight for a second, y'all, right? So a male sprinter, so that means like a male sprinter, right? Who's almost across the fastest men let's say just a sprint sport. It's going to be faster than the fastest woman. That's just the nature of these things, right? So the fastest male sprinter at Penn State isn't not necessarily faster than the fastest female sprinter at Penn State, because it may be that Penn State just happens to have the fastest female sprinter in the country, and so therefore he's going to be faster than the man who's like, the 20th fastest. I don't know, right? But like suddenly a man can just decide, hey, can transition, and like, okay. But wait, hang on, then there's a kind of an unfair advantage. But yet at the same time, what if you transition biologically and you want to participate in sports, what, are you just left out of it? You don't get to participate? So like, you should be able to participate in sports. So this is what I mean, like, this is a complicated thing. So why do you think it is that Republicans and Democrats they basically agree when you get to very specific things? Do you have any thoughts on that? You don't have to have any thoughts, by the way.
I mean, say because what they're talking about high school.
Talking about any sports across the board. It
athletes.
could be grade school, junior high, high school, college.
A way you could look at it is that, obviously these parents have kids who are student athletes. They just want the best for their children. So they're not gonna oppose something that's gonna not let their child do what makes them happy.
Okay, all right. So when it comes to actually individuals, they're gonna say like, this isn't about somebody out there. This is actually about real people. Just like, with you, bro, right? You're like a real person, so people would see you and be like, oh yeah, there's this guy in my Social 118 class that does drag. He seemed like a normal guy. I actually think I'm going to go watch him perform one day, because that's pretty cool, right? As opposed to, there's a drag show going on. F that. I'm not going to that. That's kind of strange. But you've now met somebody, so you're more likely to say, like, okay, so you may have a child, and you're more likely to say, oh, well, hang on a second. These are about children, so let's do that. Let's support children. It might be my child, but do you have anything to add? You don't have to have anything, by the way. You're good? All right. I'm not giving you a lot. I'm not asking for a lot right now, so. Okay. So do you see how this is? How like I could have stopped with here. I could stop right there, and I could have a whole conversation about Democrats and Republicans and bigotry and discrimination and God knows what. I have no idea, right? And then I come back up here and suddenly, oh, wait, this is actually a little bit complicated. Okay? So here, go ahead. We're going to do a case study. How about you're going to observe. Hang on a sec. Can you go out in the hallway? Okay. All right. Okay. Just hang out there. Make sure you can't hear us. All right. Okay, so gentlemen, you two guys, I want to hear what you have to think about this. So, it's this mother. True story, it just happened the other day. It's in the news. There's a mother and her daughter. They were stopped by a flight attendant, Southwest Airlines. They were stopped by this flight attendant who was accompanied by 2 armed police officers. They suspected her of child trafficking. And that looks like it. That's a photo of them, right? It's not on an airplane. It's just a photo of them. Mother and daughter, okay? Flying on the plane, they suspect them of child trafficking, okay? Next slide. Here's a shot. I took this from a video. I watched the video of it, the encounter with the police. There's a shot. 2 cops that are armed. They got their guns. They got the whole thing. They stop her out in the walk after when the flight landed. They go out into the, the tramway or whatever you call it. And so the person in the red shirt is the woman who works for the airlines, and she's questioning them about, like, can I ask you about your relationship? Can I, who are you? Can I see some identification? This kind of stuff, right? Okay. Keep in mind, they're biracial. It's her daughter, right? It's biracial. So here's some headlines. Flight attendant accused the parent of trafficking the youth. Okay? Flight attendant said she was trafficking black daughter. Okay? These are headlines. Okay? Biracial family stopped by armed police at Denver airport after Southwest staff wrongly suspect human trafficking. Okay? Hang on. Hold tight. One more. Racist assumption. Mixed race family stopped at Denver airport after Southwest employees suspected human trafficking. Okay? Tell me, what do you think about this, man? It's disturbing. What do you think, she's stopping her, and she's mixed race, right? So immediately, everything happens, oh my God. What do you think, Jared?
I think that God forbid it was actual human trafficking, but I feel like there has to be a basis for stopping people, and then there has to be a certain level of courtesy towards them after you stop them and realize that you've made a mistake.
Okay.
So I think it really depends on the way they went about it.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like if it was on a basis of it's a white woman with a mixed child, there's obviously something wrong with that. And I feel like you have to have more evidence to stop someone if you're going to suspect that they are human trafficking.
Uh-huh. Okay. Bro, what do you think? Will?
I mean, I agree with what Jared said. I feel like there would be behavioral indications as to whether that would cause suspicion.
There should be anyway.
Yeah,
right?
That would make the flight crew think that, hey, maybe this person is trafficking this child.
Uh-huh.
But going solely based off the difference in race is not a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so basing that on race, right? Mother's white, daughter's mixed. Uh-huh. You want to add anything?
Yeah, it's also kind of weird that the flight attendant was the one to point out, hey, there might be human trafficking, because who are they to say, or who are they to realize or pick up on what is human trafficking and what isn't? They're not informed by any means.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So we go back. Do you have anything else you want to add, Will?
I mean, I was gonna say in instances like that, I would say it's better to be safe than sorry. So it's better that even if you have that little bit of suspicion, it'd be better to be like, hey, let's investigate this, because, by the off chance that it is human trafficking, you'd want to investigate.
Okay.
But just by the basis of how they did it, if they did it solely on race, is unfortunate.
Okay. All right, cool. Anyone else want to add anything? Anyone want to just kick something out? This is awesome, but I loved your comments. Anyone want to kick anything out? Anyone just want to add anything at all? Okay? Okay. Bro. Man, I got to run up all these steps, dog. All right. This is so awesome.
I feel like you're kind of like setting it up to be like how the headlines are misleading, because we don't know if there was they're assuming that the only reason they stopped them was because the different races.
Yeah.
But there might have been some signs that there was human trafficking, not just because of that. But we don't know that, and that's just what I think, I guess.
Okay. All right, dude. What's your name?
Connor.
Connor.
Yeah.
Dude, so Connor is exhibiting critical thinking right here, right? You're bringing something else in, wait, what about this? What about that? Okay? Yeah, dude. Okay. Hey, Will, can you go ask Olivia to come in? Okay. Olivia. So check this out. Have a seat. Can you go to the next slide? So, child sex trafficking, it's become an issue that is widely talked about in the United States. It's estimated by several organizations about 300,000 children are trafficked in some capacity either in or through the United States, okay? Could be from other countries coming here, could be children going to other countries, but the point is, it's an issue. I pulled these images from the web. One is from the state of Montana. Every state in the country has a campaign against sex trafficking of children, okay? The one on the left on the top left is from New York City. If you drive across the state of Pennsylvania on Route 80, you have every rest area you go to, there is a sign up with, saying a few things about sex trafficking and about trafficking of children. And so, it's an awareness thing. When I was in college, when I was the age of most of you, you didn't see any of this anywhere. But it's suddenly a major campaign. There are organizations, there are people who have been trafficked. They start organizations, okay? Go to the next slide. So one woman in particular who started an organization fighting sex trafficking of children went to the airlines and said, you all need to get involved. And you need to start paying attention to this because many children get trafficked on the airlines, okay? And so flight attendants need training to recognize and report human trafficking. Every flight attendant in the United States at this stage of the game gets some kind of training to identify and report sex trafficking of children. Okay? So now, next slide, 100,000 eyes in the sky. That is what the Flight Attendants Union, connected with the AFL-CIO, calls their campaign. 100,000 eyes in the sky. It's a lot of eyes. It's a lot of people, 100,000 people. So of all the people, so police, again, I work with police. They get training on this. Lots of people get trained on it. But this is theirs, okay? So now you got all these people who are going to be aware and trying to think about this and stop this. Next slide. So here's CNN headline. So this woman, by the way, Olivia, she was stopped by the airline, Southwest Airline, because she was flying with her biracial daughter, and they thought she might be trafficking her daughter, okay? And, but this is how it goes, right? I mean, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, this is how it goes. So, given that the airlines are doing this, and you want them to do this, so so clearly they made a mistake because it's their daughter. What do you think about that?
My first immediate thought was why did they do that? But also so many things happen in the airport where people get stopped all the time, and you hear the craziest stories. They're like, oh, just because I look a certain way. And every time I hear that, it's really annoying to me, because it's just because they look that way. Was she treating her daughter badly? What else what other factors was it that they thought that she was trafficking her daughter just because they don't look the same? I think that's ridiculous.
Okay,
but
all right.
I think that it is good that they have 1,000 eyes in the sky, but
Yep.
I guess it can not result in this, because I wouldn't say that cause and effect so much. I think that a lot of these situations are one person just kind of goes into overdrive or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess from a mom's perspective, maybe oh, they were looking out, so I guess they are being safe. But at the same time, that could be looked at as racist. That's her daughter.
Okay, gentlemen, given what you first heard and now this about the flight attendant, what do you think? What do you think now? Connor, what do you think? I'm just giving you the thumbs up, my friend. Go ahead. Do you have any thoughts now, given that? Given what I just told you about flight attendants?
Knowing that they have training, I think it's not as bad that they got stopped. It's just a matter of I'm wondering what else they did to get stopped. So I don't know. It could be that they were acting weird or something, but it could be implicit biases. You just don't know.
Yeah. Dudes, listen. They could have just. So it's possible. So here, Olivia, can you go back to that one slide with the 3 quotes? These were 3 quotes from story. Keep going back. One more. These are the 3 quotes that you didn't see, right? So when you put a story up with these 3 quotes, it's about race, and it's only about race. And the only conclusion you can get to is that there's racism, and the flight attendant was racist, because it could be, hey, black people, check this out, black people. You know how, we go back to the missing children syndrome, and that issue, and the issue of which, this idea that black children, to a degree, the narrative, the idea that black children are second-class citizens, right, which is a narrative by lots of people in the United States. It's hey, check this out. A white person was looking out for a black child. That's pretty awesome. You know what I mean? Oh, they made a mistake, but damn, that's pretty awesome. But when you get here, then the idea is that it's about race, and it's racism. Oh, no, of course. Here's another example. Of course, stupid white person makes a mistake and picks on the mother and her actual daughter. And of course, stupid white person doesn't even imagine that this could be the person's actual daughter. That's the conclusion you get from this narrative. But, so there's a question you got to ask. What's the question what's the question you got to ask? You can go back forward to that CNN headline. What's the question you got to ask right here? That's just begging to be asked. You know what I mean? What do you need? What's the one thing you need to know that will sort of open this thing up and allow us to say, oh, wait, hang on a second. There's a simple question. What's that? Why did the flight attendants? Okay, now there are 2 questions. One is, what were the signals that the flight attendants saw? That's one. There's another question. What's the second question? Dude. Wait, hang on. What's that?
Was it actually based on race?
No, you can't know if it's based on race. But now, the good thing about this, though, is every single flight attendant in the United States, every single one, every airline employee knows this story because it's on every platform everywhere. And so people are going to be more racially aware because there is a thing that, like if you don't engage in a mixed race world, if you don't engage with mixed race people, if you live in all, I'm not going to say all black, because if you're black or if you're Asian or if you're Hispanic, you live in a mixed race world because you have people in your reality who are mixed race. Most white people do as well, but if you're not like embedded in it, then you can overlook that with a certain bias. No, here's the question. How often do stewardesses, airline employees get it wrong? How often are they pulling aside white families and black families and Asian families and whatever? How often are they getting it wrong? Surely this isn't the only time they've gotten it wrong. So how often do they get it wrong? So it's like, dude, if you want 100,000 eyes in the sky, you're going to get it wrong. You know what I mean? Like you are. Dude, look, half hour ago when I almost had my meltdown, one of your somebody in the class was standing at the back door on their phone, did the top hat, and then when I turned around, walked out. Walked out of the room. And I'm just like, what the hell, man? But, got that? But maybe I got it wrong. Maybe they're not in the class. Maybe they were just here going yeah, I'm just going to check out what this class is. I'm assuming they're in the class. They do the top hat because I watched them look at the number and go down. But maybe they're not. So I got it wrong. Okay, big deal. She got it wrong. How often do they get it wrong? How often do they get it right? So when this story is being portrayed as this race event, yet another race event, and maybe it is, maybe the stewardess, if they talk to her, the airline employee and so on, they're going to go like, if I talk to this person, I'd be like, here, can you get a close-up of my face? On green. If I heard the story, if I'm sitting here listening to the stewardess, the airline, the flight attendant, and the other employee, and I heard the story, and I heard the basis upon which she thought this could be trafficking, I might do one of these, like, right? Or, you know what I mean? Just like, oh, God, you were so dense. Like, Jesus, get a life. Or I might say, oh, all right. But what we have here wait, hang on. Oh, wait. Dudes. One day, my friends, one day. So listen, man. The problem is, so the title of this class is Beyond Divisions. So what I'm going to say here is, let this be a message to everybody. Check your narrow vision. Maybe you're overlooking some things. Maybe you could have seen, like Jared, and maybe you and I would have said, maybe the two of you, but I'm just going to exclude you for a second. Maybe Jared and I would have been like, dude, look, that's her mother. Like, it's so clear it's her mother. Like, give me a break. And maybe we wouldn't have. Maybe we would have been like, I don't know. You'd have been sitting in the row across from her, and I'd have been sitting behind her, and I'd have been going like, I don't know. You got it? You're going to make mistakes. Just like I may have made a mistake with the student that I think did the top hat if they were a student and left. That's the nature of it. Okay, y'all. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, beyond divisions, my friend. Bro, I'm going to ask you, the division thing. Do you think how often are you thinking about this divisiveness that we're in? like these stories. They're written to be to divide us.
It's actually interesting. We had a conversation similar to the World in Conversation, but I feel like I take a lot of these headlines with a grain of salt. Like you read them and then you go, okay. You kind of have to infer your own questions about. First off, like why it was written. If it was written to inform you, or written to you, like we're upset that the flight attendant might be a racist. Like you just have to take everything you read with a grain of salt.
Well, you have to, but let me tell you, my friend.
Yeah,
we don't always.
Yeah.
I mean, you try to, I try to, but I get caught in just like everybody else gets caught in. And we want to see her as a racist, right, at some level, because it's like there's this way in which, oh, there's the racist. Like, there's the problem. Like, there it is. It confirms everything. Like, I'm not, but that person is. Like, okay, I must be good. I must be okay. Because she's not. And then the whole thing about armed police. You see how that's written? Armed police. What the fuck? What are they going to do? Tell the police, hey, listen, police, here's what you need to do. We need to bring you down here, but you got to go stop by somewhere and leave your weapons. Take all your weapons off of you and leave it somewhere. And then come and talk to us. That's not how it works. Of course they're armed. That's like saying the mic'd up professor in 100 Thomas. Every professor in 100 Thomas wears a microphone. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, come on. This is designed to just, like, keep poking at us. And to tell us that we're so different. And we're so just like... And there are good people and there are bad people and all that. Are you going to say something? Do you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, I think a lot of times we might, like, get caught up in, like, the clickbait of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, media or even just journalists, like, anybody that, like, is publishing anything, like, either online or, like, for news or something, like, they're considered successful when they get a lot of reads or a lot of views or a lot of anything. So of course they're going to make something that, like, looks controversial, or, like, their headline is, like, something that they know people are going to click on.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do strive off the, like, controversy, off the,
Well,
so.
but and the issue is we all of us do.
Oh, yeah.
We
fall into the trap.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so listen, check this one out, right? Go to the next one. Now, Latasha Clemens, okay? Let me give you the story of Latasha Clemens. Latasha Clemens is the first black woman firefighter in the state of Florida. Started as a firefighter in this town of Boynton, I think it's called, okay? First black woman firefighter. So, Latasha retires 2 years ago as the deputy chief of that fire department, okay? So Latasha's been around a long time. Latasha works her way through. They decide in the city, they're going to put a mural up and they're going to honor 3 women. And there's the photo at the bottom. So there were 3 women. One was like an EMS person, and one was somebody else, and one was, I think, a police officer, and one was Latasha. Latasha is the only black person in that photo, bottom right hand, okay? They paint the mural. They're going to do a mural. And they paint Latasha as white. And Latasha turns around and sues the city for $100,000 for defamation of character. Okay? $100,000. They painted her as white. She sues the city. Okay? The township city. I think it's a city in Florida for $100,000 for defamation of character. Okay? Because they painted her white. I mean, it's pretty terrible painting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like, yeah.
The one in the top right is the mural?
The one in the top right is I think, a version of the mural.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like not, yeah, it's, yeah, exactly.
It doesn't look, yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
No, it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
She actually looks like a guy. So, what do you think about Latasha Clemens suing the city for $100,000 for defamation of character simply because they painted her as a white person and not a black person?
I don't know. I'm just thinking in terms of me. I'd be upset too, if I was supposed to be acknowledged for something and I was painted as something I'm not, regardless of what that is.
Dude, you're painted as a white person, and God forbid should you look like me.
But
Yeah.
I'm black, so.
No, I got you. But okay.
So I'm saying, like, I'm not saying it's the end of the world or anything, but I'd like to be painted as a black man.
Okay. What do you mean end of the world?
I wouldn't sue, but it would definitely be changed within a day after it was finished.
Yeah, you just go get some brown. Okay, so you wouldn't sue, but you would. Will, what do you think?
Well, first, the murals, well, if that's it on the top right, it's god awful. Yeah. But also, I just trying to look at it from her perspective. It just seems kind of disrespectful that she was the first black female firefighter in Florida.
No, but that's years ago. The mural's just a recent thing, right? This is like they're honoring her for all of that service.
Well, for all that service, they can't, not that they can't do it right, but they can't. But because it just seems disrespectful that they wouldn't depict her as who she was, and that they.
Okay, would you sue if they depicted you as Jared, dude?
What's wrong with? There's nothing wrong with him.
If they depicted you as Jared, would you sue?
I would. So I think that's more dependent upon the personality.
Yeah.
Of the person. I understand why she would sue, because being a black woman, that's a very historically discriminated minority.
Yeah.
So I understand why she'd be pissed and why she'd want to be depicted as who she is rather than something she's not.
Yeah.
So would I sue if I was in her position? Probably. And I'd get money off it too.
Yeah. Do you have it? Oh yeah. Hey, sorry about that. All right, go ahead.
I think, if you ask the question to me, if I was depicted as, or if I had a mural and I had some great accomplishment, but my skin was painted black, I think if I was to sue, it wouldn't be, come across well. It would definitely, and I wouldn't sue, that's the thing. I don't think that this would be something to sue over, because I don't know, unless, she knows exactly, who painted it and it was, an attack on her race, then shoot, go sue for sure. I think because I don't know all the gory details of it all, that I wouldn't sue, but I would definitely want it changed because it's not an accurate representation of who you are. But I think that again, if you asked me the question, if you were painted as a black woman,
a black guy.
Right, exactly. A lot of people would be she doesn't have the right to sue. So I think that the kind of back and forth of it is, but I just wouldn't sue.
They would see it as petty.
Yeah.
Jared.
Or racist because, oh, God forbid, right, but she doesn't want to be.
Oh, right, exactly.
Right.
If you did, they'd see you as racist because, what's wrong with being a black person?
Right, and there's nothing wrong. And I don't think she's saying it as oh, I don't want to be white. There's something wrong with being white. I don't think that that's the way to look at it.
No. And that's not what she's saying.
Right.
Do you have a final thought? And then I'm going to say something.
I was just thinking about it longer. I understand more why she would sue, just because there is historically a tendency to whitewash history.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand why she'd be upset, feeling like that was happening to her. And part of why she's being honored is because she's black, but that's not being acknowledged in her mural. So
okay.
I don't know. I think now I take back my answer. I would sue too.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen. So here's a thought, right? Okay. The reason I'm using this story, y'all, right, is the following. First off, I'm certain that this woman here is a badass. I'm certain of that, okay? Because she joined that fire. She's the first black woman firefighter in the state of Florida, y'all, right? She's serious. She's tough. She's serious. She's got super thick skin, my friends. That's a guarantee. So I actually have an interesting story. my sister, this goes back to 1971, maybe 72. My sister lived in this rural area of Kentucky, and they had a volunteer fire department that they just started. They got this firehouse, they got a couple trucks, and they started this volunteer fire department. And she was the only woman that tried out to be on the fire department, right, to be a volunteer. And it's like 72. None of the men wanted her at all, man, at all. It was just like, we will force you out of here. You will not succeed. You will not be one of us. And they made her life hell. And my sister's one of these people who is just like, if you tell her she can't do it, she's going to do it, right? So she's older than I am, right? This is Olivia's grandmother, right? Okay, so my sister, just going through hell with all these jerk men, right? There's a fire, and I happen to be down there when this fire breaks out. And so we just jump in the trucks and we go. It's like, 4 in the morning, and we jump in the back of the pickup truck, my nephew and my brother and I, and my sister's driving like 100 miles an hour on these roads, and they get to the fire. And the fire is basically, this house is engulfed, and they're not going to put it out. But my sister, at one time, these guys tell her, hey, get on the hose. Why don't you get on the hose, right? And the fire hose. Anyone ever been on the end of a fire hose? Anybody in here does volunteer fire? You've been on the end of a fire hose? Okay. My sister, who weighs at this point, probably like 130 pounds maybe, she grabs the hose. The men who are with her, they let go, which is dangerous as hell. My sister starts bouncing up and down. She's like 2 feet, 3 feet off the ground. And she was just like, I could just see in her face, she's like, I will not let go of this hose, man. And she hung onto that hose. And we were standing right this far away from her watching this whole thing happen. And, I'm like 12. My nephew, her son, is 14. And I was like, damn, man. And finally, after about 15 or 20 seconds, or maybe longer, I don't know, the guys came over and they grabbed on with her. And that was like, so I just have a personal experience of what it takes to be a woman, what it took back in the day. And that wasn't even back in the day, but I will guarantee that Latasha Clemens is what we would call in English a badass. And then she rose up to be deputy chief. So not only does she have thick skin, but she's gone through so much. I will guarantee that she's gone through so much racism that she couldn't even tell the stories in a single day. That's just almost a guarantee. And yet she probably kept it in. She probably just put her, just like my sister, she never said a word. Just like when she hung onto that hose, she's like, I'm not letting this go, and F you all, and here I am, and you're going to have to accept me. And Latasha, I can almost guarantee it's the same thing. So when I read this story, I know nothing about it. I actually tried to get in contact with her because I wanted to know the real story. When I read this story, the comments about the story are snarky. What are you suing for $100,000 because they painted your face wrong? Like, get a life. Like, come on. Like, what's your problem? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But what I see is probably happened is like, man, hey, she went through so much. She never said a word. And then something happened that she knows that someone was like, you know what, Latasha? You didn't win. You were here this whole time, but behind your back, many of us were dropping the N-bomb. We called you by the N-word. We didn't but you know what? In the end, we're going to win. In fact, this is the story that I think is an equally possible story, right? That she's not thin-skinned at all. And she was just like, you know what, y'all? I'm just done. Like, I've had it right here. I'm done. Yeah, I'm going to sue you because I know you did it on purpose, and uncool. When you read the story, and then you read the comments in the story, it sounds like just another complaining black person who needs to get a life. All they did was paint you as a white person. Get over it. It's done now. They fixed it. Whatever the case is. And I'm like, no, that's not all they did. This was like probably 28 years of misery, and in the end, someone really just told that off, just that final thing. And she's just like, nope, we're done now. And I'm like, more power to you. Because typically for me, I'd be like, I'm not going to sue over something stupid like this. This is like stupid. But I'm like, nah, sometimes you do. Sometimes you just make a point. And like, yep. And this is one of those cases, like, just like with my sister, if you're not in it, if you're not watching, if you're not paying attention, you have no idea how much people are, the level of sexism and racism and stuff that people are actually experiencing. So anyway, I put that story up there like that. Like it's totally different. See, this is critical thinking. So back up to Connor, right? This is the critical thinking. It's like you start to say, wait, hang on. Am I talking or is someone else talking? You know, like if you rise up to deputy chief, you know you played the game. You know you played the game. You know you didn't make a lot of people angry. You know you did it right. You know you were a good person. You know you made it happen. So it's like, okay. So then what happened? So you gotta, sometimes you gotta like really read around the lines or between the lines. All right, man. Wait, hang on. Can you go that one? Yeah. Hey, do you guys remember, do you remember this story here? This is more critical thinking, right? Divisions. Do you remember this story at the Instagram a few weeks ago with Facebook, and they acknowledged that, remember the whistleblower, they acknowledged that Instagram, the app, harms teams' self-respect. Do you remember it? What do you remember of it? Do you?
I remember seeing it, and it was more just disappointing that the company actually acknowledged it. We all knew that was happening because of how people can show themselves on apps like that, and people will tend to have a negative self-image afterwards, comparing themselves to people they see.
So when you say we all know that's happening, what do you mean we all know? Like who's we and what do you mean know?
Well, I think it's kind of safe to speak for my generation. We understand that a lot of things on social media are held to a higher standard, like models say that we see, pictures that are posted, we know that we know they aren't really exactly how people actually look. And younger people, or even my generation people in this classroom, will see that, compare themselves to it, and get upset when they're not like that, which harms their self-esteem. I think that's a pretty
just standard, well established.
Yeah.
Yep. Do either of you want to say anything?
I didn't know like that this article came out. So when you were saying like, oh, do you remember? Like I don't remember, but
it was one, the Facebook whistleblower. Did you pay attention to her? Former Facebook employee. She came out. It was like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
More power to you.
Sorry. Reading it, like, I agree with what's your name again? Will was saying, was that, like, a lot of people are, like, familiar with this. Like, we can all, like, relate, I guess, and it's something that is talked about a lot among probably the younger people more, just because I feel like that's majority of the people who are on Instagram. It's, like, talked about and it's, like, related to, and people, like, share the things that they relate with. But I've never, like, I always get this. I just never seen, like, Instagram, like, promote something that's, like, purposefully to harm somebody else. You know what I mean? So, like,
it's about its very existence. Yeah.
Yeah. So them acknowledging that the app, like, I think that that's probably a good step for, like, the company, like, in the right direction to, like, even, like, with, like, addiction, like, acknowledging is the first step, you know, kind of thing. Well, like, it's...
No, I got you, man.
Well, they always say that, like,
By the way, those of you who are addicts, acknowledging that you're an addict is the first step. Take it.
Sorry, I don't know. That's what.
No, it's true. I'm saying that because this matters. You know what I mean? I said that one time in a class, and there was a kid who was a heroin addict, and like all hell broke loose in his life because I just said that. Anyway, I don't want to run out of time. Jared, do you have a thought on this?
I'm not on social media much because I figured that was the case. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So here, listen. Hang on, we have 4 minutes left, and I got 3 minutes in which I'm going to talk, and you got 1. Hang on, don't put your stuff. Hang on. Are you ready? So here's the deal. Will. And so the Facebook, what Facebook did was they took a voluntary poll of Instagram users, and they asked them, and they said, hey, how do you feel when you're done being on Instagram for X amount of time? And 3 of the 10 people who responded to the poll said, yeah, I kind of feel like I feel worse about myself. Okay? What does that mean? Well, first off, it's a voluntary poll, so you're only getting specific people. You're getting young people. You have no idea. We don't know what it means. What do you mean you feel bad? Like you have no idea, right? But this is the Instagram information. So this goes out in the world as being like, Will, of course, like we all know that. Like, and I'm like, do you know that? Like, what do you really know? What do you know? Those of you who are on these apps, what do you know about what they do to you? Like, what do you know? You only know your experience. And most of us have no idea about our own experiences. We don't even know, right? So then I start to explore this a little bit because it's like video games. You got to think that playing Call of Duty and all these video games where you're like shooting up people and there's blood and gore and like it's more and more realistic. You got to think that it leads people to be violent. And we can't find that. There's a lot of mixed evidence. So I start exploring this, and I find this guy. Go to the next slide. This dude, Lawrence Steinberg, who's written about 500 articles on this stuff, like a really serious researcher who's studying these kinds of things, images and participation in social media and self-esteem and what we know. And this guy is saying, we don't actually know. It really doesn't appear to hurt people. Mostly, it doesn't appear to have a negative impact on women's self-esteem. And so you might think like, well, of course it does, because like me, when I'm done with it on Instagram and I see all these people and I feel a certain way, what this guy says is, yeah, but look, but when we study you and when we look at you and when we watch you and we go inside your mind and we watch how you operate in the world, what we find is that you quickly forget all that stuff and you move on with your life, and it really doesn't have a negative impact on you. And so Instagram, it's easy. Oh yeah, we go after Facebook. We go after Instagram. We go after Mark Zuckerberg because he's a Zuckerberg. And so we want to hate the guy because he's more successful and wealthy and whatever than we are. So we just attack him because it seems like it must be true. And what people who think about this stuff and are very aware, and all this guy does is study this issue, which is a hell of a lot more than like the 4 of us who are just pulling ideas out of our rear ends, right? And so he's saying, it's not really clear. It seems obvious, but it's not really clear. Okay, you all. Divisions, beyond division. Hey, student, listen, make sure you get on, fill up those seats. And students from China, can I get at least 4 or 5 people to come down right now? Really need some Chinese students. Hey, wait, by the way, can we get a hand for our volunteers? Sorry, dude.